Okay, let's finish off this elevation. So let's take a look at our photo once more. And the first thing we can see right away is that this mullion that runs across horizontally right here, our top mullion, only goes to the 1, 2, 3, third mullion over. So let's go ahead and bring that one in. I'm going to open that guy up. Here, maybe I'll hide this first. And then open this up. Go ahead and push-pull that in. We're going to bring that in to meet up with the end of the third mullion there. Third vertical mullion. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to put in the line of this arced ceiling element. Because as you can see at the very top here, at the top of this window, we've got, or this window wall I should say, we've got one mullion that kind of caps it all off, and it runs along the edge of that line. And that line's going to repeat in the beams and in the ceiling above. So we're going to use the same arc over and over again. So let's go ahead and grab our arc tool. There are a few, in the newer versions of SketchUp, there's a few different types of arcs. There are the regular standard arcs that basically create a perfect circular arc. And you'll notice as I drag it all the way around, it's really segmented. That's because the segments on this are way too low. We'll address that in a second. Then there is our second 2-point arc here, which is the arc that I typically use the most, which is point to point and then to point. So you're clicking from one end to the next, and then you're creating the bulge in the center. And then lastly, we've got this 3-point arc where you start with 1 point, and then you create your third point. This is definitely a lot wilder and a lot more difficult to control, especially for what we're trying to do. We don't have that many points. All we really know is we know this point here at this edge, and we know this point over here. So let's start with the 2-point arc. And before I make a big arc, let's go ahead and look on the outside here. I'm just going to demonstrate. As you can see, once we start to make a really intense arc, it becomes really segmented. That is because when we select the tool at the beginning, the default is set to 12 sides. There's no such thing as a true arc or a true curve in SketchUp. Every single line or every single curve is actually faceted. Same with every face. If we do a circle or if we do a cylinder, you're going to have faceted sides on that. So what I want to do is I want to bring this sides, I want to make the sides a lot heavier. So I'm going to type in something like 30, just because that's going to make it appear a lot smoother than it really is. So if you ever select the arc tool and realize that your sides are way too low and you've already started drawing, you can always go back to select to kind of reset it, select the tool again, and type in exactly how many sides you want. I think 30 for something as big as this, 30 is actually going to do just fine. So I'm going to start at this outside corner. I'm going to start at the end point all the way at the edge, which is our line that we know. This is our top point of our roof here. Now I'm going to bring this down to our other lowest point, which is this point right here. It's basically that, remember we drew that 2-foot guide out and stretched this out a little bit. So that's our secondary point. So I'm going to click there again. Now I'm going to start to raise this arc up as I go. And I don't want it to bulge too high because I don't want it to be kind of ridiculous. It almost doesn't want to pass over the dotted line up here. So I'm going to allow myself, I can navigate while I've got the arc active. I'm going to allow myself to kind of come in a little bit. And it looks like if we do 12 or 1 foot, enter, that just about does it. We don't really cross over that straight point at any point. So we've got a nice, clean 12-inch bulge there. And in our newer versions of SketchUp, we can actually see as we go to move an arc, we can actually see where the midpoint is, or I'm sorry, not midpoint, but where the center of that arc is. It's way down here. The radius point is way at the bottom. Okay, but we'll never need to access that for this. So what I've got a nice clean line that represents the line that we're going to be using to follow this arc. Okay, I want to, for the time being, move this off to the side. So I'm just going to move this along the red axis far enough away that it's kind of not really a part of my model. And you'll also notice that I have not grouped it. This is just going to be a guide for us. We're going to reuse this arc over and over again. So I don't want to necessarily group it because I'm ultimately just going to throw it away. And if I group it, I'm going to have to keep ungrouping it, and you'll see why in a moment. The next step is I'm going to make this arced piece that runs along this edge here. So I'm going to make this first mullion piece, or this top mullion piece that's kind of the first part of what we attach to our ceiling. Okay, but you'll also notice that it stops short. It stops a little bit short right here. So I'm not gonna actually continue. I'm gonna make the piece first, but once I've made it, I'm gonna cut that at a certain point. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start putting that in. It's going to be exactly the same size as one of these, so I can copy this out into my model, open this guy up, select everything I don't need, and delete it. Basically, that was just a short, kind of faster way for me to get this rectangle piece. Okay, and I'm going to match this up kind of cleanly in place with where it will belong. Let's go ahead and hide this. This, I think, is going to make a lot more sense once I do it, so instead of trying to explain where I'm going the whole time, I might as well just do the gesture and then we can explain it a little bit as we're going. We're going to use follow me to create this, because what I want to do is I want to extrude this shape along this path. So in order to do that, I need to right click on my shape, explode it, and then I'm going to select my line, and I'm going to activate my follow me tool, okay, which looks like this guy here. And now that because this line was selected, the next step is I'm telling the follow me tool which face I want to follow that path. So I'm going to click once on this face, and it's going to follow that path, and it's going to make that perfectly clean line all the way down using the exact shape I want. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and select this entire thing by triple clicking on it and grouping it. We're going to do follow me quite a bit, so I'll really break it down, and I'll probably make a separate video that just explains the basics, the bare bones basics of follow me. But what you really need to know, most essentially, is that in order to follow a path, you need whatever shape you're following needs to be exploded, and the path needs to be in line with what it's following. You'll notice that if I look at this in plan, that this line is perfectly lined up with this. I didn't kind of move it off to the side. I basically just moved it cleanly along one axis so that as it follows that exact path. I'm going to keep that line active for the time being. Now I'm going to take a look back at my photo again. I can see that this point, let's zoom in here. I can see that the upper mullion breaks at this first vertical mullion. So what I'm going to do is open this up. Let's go ahead and look at these side by side. It looks like this first vertical mullion here needs to extend higher than we have it right now. So I've just opened it up, pull it up, and now look what happens. Notice that as I'm pulling it up, all of them are coming up with me because they're all components. They're connected to one another. So in order to make this one unique and to be able to edit it by itself without affecting the others, I need to right click on it and say make unique. So let's go ahead and open that up and pull it up into place. Now that it's unique, it's able to move independently of the other two. I'm going to have to do the same thing with this one, because if I open this one, let's see, maybe not, maybe this one. Oh no, that's right. This is our one that we made independently, so I don't have to make this one unique. I'm just going to pull that one up too. Now I can break this at this point by opening it up, making a line along the face, and pulling it away. Now this section matches this section. Let's go ahead and delete the guides because we don't need those right now. And at this point, I can start to edit all of these, but again, because they're all components, we're going to have to make each one unique as we do it. So let me go ahead and unhide that little wall so I can that little wall piece so I can see these a little better. So I'm going to right click, make that unique, make that unique. Right click and then make that unique. Kind of just all the way down the line. Okay, now I can open each one up, make lines across, and push pull through to the other side, touching this back face so that that disappears. Let's go ahead and hide this again. In fact, I don't think we need this anymore. I think we can go ahead and delete it. We might need to make a plane to bring a plane back at a later point, but for now I think we're okay. Alright, so I'm just going through, selecting these, opening them up, carving along the edge, and push pulling away. And I find that the more I do this kind of thing, absolutely, the faster I get. Okay, we're almost there. Let's just do these last little bits. Okay, and notice I'm just panning, using my shortcuts to select my tools, using my shortcuts to select push-pull, and there we go. Okay, great. Now let's do this. Let's cut a space here for the door. So we've got our door that lines up right here, and then we've got another 3 feet off of this line where we're going to need another vertical mullion, but just big enough that it fits around that door. So let's make that other vertical mullion by taking one of these ones that we already have in place and copying it over. So I will just select this guy, hit my copy button, and pull along the green axis, holding shift down until I pop onto that point. Sometimes you need to find a little reference point, like a point where the guide actually hits the edge of something. So I'm referencing where the guide has hit the edge of the plan there. Okay, let me go ahead and unhide that. Here's where my door needs to be cut through. So I can open this first vertical mullion, horizontal mullion, open that up, activate my rectangle tool, and draw a rectangle across the face of this, and now push this piece away. Here's what happens when you try to push-pull something in half. So I've basically cut this face open and then push this through, and now I'm looking at it from the other side, and you'll notice that I've got these pieces in place. SketchUp doesn't like to cut things in half and have the piece disappear out the back, so you're able to push-pull through, and it looks like you haven't successfully pushed-pull through all the way, even though you now only have one face on the other side. All you have to do here is just select those pieces and delete them, and it'll work. So you still have your 2 separate pieces on either side. Let's do the same thing with this piece on the floor here. Go ahead and open that up, make a rectangle on the top face from piece to piece, activate push-pull and push-pull this down. Just select those 2 lines in that interface and delete them. Okay, let's go ahead and shift unhide everything just to make sure we are where we need to be. And then now I'm going to shift delete and delete my guides. Okay, and we have what looks like the accurate layout of this glazing wall. So we're basically where we need to be as far as this elevation goes.